Good morning. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your patience this morning. I'm Lieutenant Kevin Petrus with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, assigned to the Public Affairs Office. Today, we're going to be providing a public safety briefing for the first quarter of 2023. So that's the beginning of the year through March 31st, of course. We'll be giving crime statistics and addressing some important crime trends that we've seen in the city of Charlotte. We're going to throw a lot of numbers at you this morning, but we will have all these statistics available with a press release that will be posted on the City of Charlotte's newsroom website. These numbers represent real victims in our community, and the CMPD does not take this lightly. Our department reviews statistics daily, weekly, and monthly to help inform our enforcement efforts and develop targeted responses. To begin today's briefing, I would like to bring in Deputy Chief Tanya Arrington.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Chief Tanya Arrington. I'm going to highlight some of our stats, give an overall big picture of what we've seen so far in 2023, as well as talk about some of the challenges that we've faced as well. CMPD's 911 calls have increased 8% from this time last year, and overall crime is up 7%, most of that being driven by our property crimes. Chief Jennings talks about his top two priorities, violent crime and recruiting. So I'm going to touch on violent crime now, and I'll touch on recruiting at the end. Our violent crime has decreased by 6%, so we're very proud of that statistic. Despite being short-staffed, our officers continue to do an incredible job of balancing our call volumes as well as being proactive in our communities. So far, they've answered over 89,000 calls for service, as well as doing proactive patrols and community engagement functions. Our overall arrests are up 13%, and gun seizures are up over 12%. We've seized 800 guns, over 800 guns year to date. Once again, this is a testament to the dedication and the incredible work of our officers and civilians. Staying on violent crime, we've seen a decrease of 5% in robberies and 22% in rapes. Unfortunately, we have seen an increase in homicides, with 24 this year versus 19 during the same time last year. What we continue to see, and what's really frustrating, are minor disputes being solved with guns. So you're talking about an incident that will change the lives of two families forever. When I talk about firearms, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about responsible ownership and gun safety. If you own a gun, do not leave it in your vehicle. So far, we've had 258 guns stolen from vehicles this year. So that means we're on track to have over 1,000 guns taken from vehicles by the end of the year. That's something that we can control. So I ask you to make it a habit to know where your gun is before you go to bed each night. If you bring your gun in the house, then we need to talk about responsible gun ownership. We need to talk about the safety of the gun. If you have a gun lock, please use the gun lock. If you don't have a gun lock, we recommend you use a safe. If you don't have either one of those, we ask that you take the ammo and separate it from the gun to ensure it does not get in the hands of a teenager or a child. As I mentioned, violent crime incidents are down 6%. Major Sale is going to highlight a large operation that's been conducted, I think it was over a year, that has impacted violent crime, our violent crime hotspots. He's going to touch on auto thefts as well as juvenile crimes. Major Sale.
Good morning. I'm Major Luke Sell with the Special Investigations Bureau. And in 2022, the ABC unit identified over 130 gaming locations. Many of those locations became hotbeds for violent crime. After the North Carolina legislature, gaming laws were affirmed by the North Carolina Appellate Court in 21 and in 22. CMPD's ABC unit began investigating and enforcing gambling statutes at these locations with the assistance of ALE and Homeland Security. Our ABC unit has delivered dozens of cease and desist letters, issued at least 12 ABC violations to the ABC Commission, issued 8 citations, and have made felony gambling arrests. The ABC unit and its partners have served 15 search warrants and seized more than 10 pounds of marijuana, 9 guns, and over $1 million in currency. In addition to the reduction of nearly 100 dedicated gambling arcades, the ABC unit has been successful in having illegal gambling machines removed from dozens of ABC permitted establishments. We had 12 incidents of violent crime at this time last year at those arcade locations. Currently, we only have 1. This is a huge impact in our violent crime year to date. As Deputy Chief Arrington mentioned, auto thefts are the biggest driver of our increases in overall crime incidents. From January 1 to March 31st, there have been 1,500 auto theft incidents. That's a 99% increase from last year. The increase can be linked to the social media TikTok challenge that emerged around the summer of 2022. Most of us have seen it, detailing how thieves can steal Kia and Hyundai vehicles easily without needing keys. In the first quarter of this year, there have been more than 800 Kia and Hyundai vehicles involved in thefts and theft attempts. That increases nearly 1,800%. That's 800 people that can't go to work, they can't take their kids to school, go to the doctor. Kia and Hyundai accounts for 55% of all stolen vehicles in 2023. For perspective, Kia and Hyundai's accounted for just 6% of auto thefts this time last year. What's even more disturbing is that 95% of stolen Kia and Hyundai arrests are juveniles. Juveniles account for 62% of all auto theft arrests in this year. That's 152 juvenile arrests in just 3 months. Auto theft arrests are up 64% in 2023. There have been 247 year-to-date compared to 151 this time last year. CMPD has done a lot to step up enforcement and education on this trend. We've held club giveaways for the anti-theft devices for Kia and Hyundai vehicle owners. We have another giveaway on the 29th, so check our social media outlet for information on that. We're working with our regional Kia and Hyundai dealership partners for other possible solutions as well. Our public affairs office has put out educational material with prevention tips, urging people to lock their car doors, keep their valuables out of the car, and park in well-lit areas. Our officers and detectives put in hours and hours of work developing cases and taking juveniles into custody. This is a tremendous drain on our limited resources every day. These juveniles, in most cases, are not given secure custody orders and are released right back to their families or caretakers. The number of crimes linked to habitual juvenile offenders makes our jobs extremely difficult. For example, one 15-year-old has been charged with 7 auto thefts and has racked up 38 total arrests. A 16-year-old is linked to a 35 auto arrest and has been arrested 58 times and just recently was sent to juvenile detention. This cycle is happening time and time again, and not just auto thefts. We continue to see juveniles commit serious crimes at higher rates. This past month, a 17-year-old cut off his electronic monitor for the 2nd time, and this 17-year-old has been arrested 40 times and is linked to 76 different crimes, from breaking and entering, armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon. He's most recently charged with 4 different incidents of shooting into occupied dwelling. CMPD continues to navigate this vicious cycle of catch and release. Another trend that's involving young people that's gotten a lot of media attention, not only here but nationally, is street takeovers. This involves groups who shut down intersections and highways to perform dangerous stunts in their vehicles to gain clout and clicks on social media. We have a message to anyone who thinks it's okay to engage in dangerous street stunts. We will exercise all of our resources and legal avenues available to seize your vehicle and charge you to the full extent of the law. Since February, our CMPD's Transportation Division has reported 11 arrests, 78 citations, 38 vehicles towed, all related to street takeovers. We also seized 7 guns, including a firearm seized on the 15th of April from the vehicle of a 17-year-old. The 17-year-old was arrested and charged with possession of a firearm by a minor, possession of drug paraphernalia, and later he was released to the parents. House Bill 429 is currently in the Transportation Committee, and if passed, it will levy harsher penalties on people who take part in these takeovers. CMPD can't do it alone, cracking down in all these violent trends, dangerous trends. We're asking our community partners to help make a difference when it comes to juvenile crime. We need active parents, caretakers, community members, whether that's an aunt, uncle, grandma, cousin. Take responsibility and know what your child is doing during the day and whom they associate with. Monitor their social media. As a reminder, if CMP does that, find that parents and caretakers are contributing to that behavior, they can and will be charged with contributing to the delinquency of the minor. CMPD has plenty of programs and outlets for young men and women with the goal of steering them down the right path and developing skills, becoming successful adults. Our Community Engagement Division runs 23 programs, most of which are youth-oriented. We strive to provide structure for young men and women, especially as we head toward the summer. CMPD and the City of Charlotte provide ample opportunities for positive experience and activities over the summer. I'll be available for some questions, but right now I'll bring Chief Arrington back up to the podium.
So just to recap, while we've seen a slight increase in overall crime, we are proud of the fact that we've seen a decrease in violent crime, as well as an increase in our arrests and gun seizures. We will continue to focus our resources on violent crimes as well as auto thefts in the second quarter. Divisions are working on their summertime plans, which will include access to overtime as needed, and there will be patrols around our malls, our apartment complexes, including pools, because some of the pool parties, we have seen them turn violent, as well as our greenways. We will be out proactively patrolling the areas, so we encourage you, if you see an officer, to get out there and talk to them. We encourage everyone in the community to get involved, whether it be going to a community meeting, calling 911 if they see something suspicious, or calling Crime Stoppers at 704-336-1600 if they have any information on a crime. So I also want to take this opportunity to talk about recruitment. You know, that's one of the chief's main priorities. We had 32 police recruits that graduated this past Friday, and we're expecting a new academy class of about 40. We continue to offer a $7,500 signing bonus for all new recruits and laterals, and offer a competitive salary at $51,465, which does not include all of the incentives. So if you need to find purpose in your life, come join us. You get to serve your community every day. So what we'll do now is open it up for questions. We would ask that if you could tell us who you're with in case we need to do any follow-up. Our PIOs will take that information down. Yep. If you want to come up here and then we can tag team. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Ward with WFAU. As far as gun violence, are there areas of the city where you're seeing increases or decreases recently?
I would have to get I'd have to follow up on exacts. I don't have specifics, just touching on overall, but if that's something you would like, we can definitely get that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
Hi, Bilal Rose, WBTV News, and I noticed you all mentioned that overall crime is up and homicides are up, but one thing I did not see is gun violence up in the city, and I bring that up off of what happened this past weekend at Romero Bearden Park, and we also noticed in the stack there were 21 related gun incidents over this past weekend, and we want to know, is that normal for a weekend, given that Charlotte is growing? What are y'all doing to combat gun violence? And what is the typical day when it seems like there are shootings every day?
I don't know if that would be up or down for that particular time frame. That's something that we can get you. But what we can say is that we have officers in the right places at the right time. We were able to respond within 2 to 3 minutes. Officers were able to make arrests as well as administer life-saving aid to the victims. So with that. And then also, you're talking about gun violence, and we talk about the amount of arrests being up, as well as gun seizures. So, those do have direct impacts on our crime. So if we're locking up the right people, I still believe in that 80-20 rule. 20% of the people are committing 80% of the crime. So if we can target the right 20%, get them in jail, not just get them in jail, because that's what the officers are doing, but keep them in jail, then I think we will see a decrease in crime, no matter what our population is.
Are there comparisons on gun violence in particular, this time last year until now?
Chief, can you just repeat the question that he's asking? So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Their comparisons, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so, from us, from the news standpoint, it seems like there are shootings every day. Are there stats as far as what gun violence looked like for the first quarter of this year compared to last year?
Yes, we can get you that. Did y'all? Okay. Yes, we can get you that, sir.
Hunter with Channel 9. I'd be remiss if I didn't start off by saying what a lot of us woke up to this morning, which was an officer that was involved in a really awful crash. How is the officer doing this morning, and just how dangerous could that have been? I think top of mind is Officer Mia Goodwin.
Yeah, no, I think anytime we have a crash involving an officer, I mean, it's hard not to go back to what happened with Mia Goodwin, and it could have been a lot worse, absolutely. Officers in good spirits. I don't know the extent. I think from what I understand, injuries are not significant, was my understanding. But yeah, I think it just goes back to show you that this is a dangerous job. And, we're proud of our officers that go out here every day and do what they do.
And your message to drivers, perhaps, when they do see a crash and are approaching it?
I mean, we've talked about this again, like, a lot of people will approach something. We just ask that you slow down, at least until you know which lane's closed. It's for the safety of the officer. It's for the safety of the civilians that are on the side of the road as well. Slow down, act like that was your family member over there that's on the side of the road that the officer's administering aid to. Just slow down. It's easy.
In regards to the auto thefts, a significant rise in them. I know a lot of it has to do with that challenge.
Yes.
But it's beating a dead horse, I know, but what can be done to prevent those cars from being taken, and how are they getting in? Is this carjackings? Is it breaking windows? Is it cars unlocked?
I would take carjackings out, but all the above, right? Unlock cars as well as breaking into cars, breaking windows to gain access. We encourage owners of Kias and Hyundais to take them to the dealership to get that software that defeats what the kids are using to steal the vehicles. So, and then also, if you can't do that, I'm going to say that's a lot easier to do that than have your car stolen and go through the back end of, working with your insurance company, damage to the vehicle, et cetera. Yes, sir.
Derek Devletcher, Queen City News. I want to follow up a little bit on Lowell's question, but be a little bit more general about this. There is a general feeling among some of the people that watch us, watch local news, that the crime is a little bit more than usual, especially the gun violent crime. Is it more of the fact that these are happening in more high-profile locations or more unusual locations, or is this more of a situation where it's just getting more attention? Do you feel? Because you mentioned violent crime is down for the first quarter, but it doesn't feel like it. I mean,
Right.
People, and we've seen the comments, we've heard the viewer calls. Is it more of just the perception, do you think, at this point?
I mean, some of it could be perception, and especially if they are happening at high-profile locations, you guys are going to be more apt to report on that, right? I mean, the more, right, absolutely. So, the more it's reported on, the more that perception is that there is an increase. I don't have those exact numbers, but we can get that to you so we can compare and then analyze that information for you.
When the last time I was here, more specifically, we were talking about some of the street takeover events.
Yes.
I mean, since then, we've seen off and on like a couple of more isolated things that have happened. How many more, are you guys aware of any more that have happened, or at least a good number of other events that have happened since the last time we saw each other?
I mean, I think it'd be safe to say that there's some type of event just about every week. I think we've seen a decrease in the amount of cars that are participating, especially since now that we're seasoned vehicles. I think people recognize that we're not going to tolerate that type of behavior. And to Major Sell's point, we're going to use every avenue that we can to stop that type of behavior, including working with our legislators.
And one last question, I think this might be a typo, at least on the robberies. It was 308 in 2022, 2023, 25. Is that number, should that be reversed, just for the sake of our context?
Yeah, you've got it down 5%, but actually,
That number is higher.
the number is higher.
Yeah, I think that would be.
I think typo.
Yeah, is
Okay, that's a
that a typo?
Yes.
Yeah,
But thank you for catching that.
Okay, no problem.
Speaking of the robberies and burglaries, did a thing last night about down in the Providence Plantation area, the Cedar, or down the country club areas down
Right.
there with possible South American crime ring going on,
Right.
and a very big increase in burglaries in that area. Can you just talk about that, and how long have you guys been made aware that there might be a South American crime ring hitting the high-end neighborhoods?
So we've been working on this since about July of last year. Loosely, we think there may be 20 burglaries that are tied to this ring. We do have some evidence that we're working on now, and hopefully that will garner an arrest. I don't want to get into specific details as far as what that is, but we know that they're very transient. We know that there have been arrests in other jurisdictions. While we have not been able to directly tie it back to our jurisdiction, there's a good chance that those rings are involved in what we're seeing here as well.
Were you surprised when you heard that they actually cut a 150-pound safe out of the wall, carried it out the back door, across a golf course, and into whatever vehicle they were waiting for? I mean, when you hear something like that, does that catch you off guard?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's very brazen. If you're talking about a 150-pound safe, the fact that, I don't know if anybody called in on that specific incident or not, but to make it all the way across a golf course, it's concerning.
Major, real quick, the auto theft, you talked about the 800% increase just in Hyundais and Kias alone. I don't know if you have that number with you, but do you have a comparative, like how many all of last year, just for those two vehicles last year compared to the first quarter this year?
Yeah, I believe I want to say I gave that number. If not, we can get it to you.
No, so that's for the first quarter. I meant for the full year.
Oh, yeah, we can get you that number. That's not a problem.
Would it be safe to say it's probably not 813?
That would be safe to say, I think. I can feel secure in saying that. And just to correct, the robbery total, year-to-date is 308. Last year-to-date was 325, so it was reversed.
Major, while you're up there on the auto thefts, we talk about the toll on officers when it comes to some of our more violent crime, but when you're talking about a force that is trying to recruit officers and is low on staff, what toll does that 800 number take on your patrol officers responding to 800 in 3 months?
It's frustrating. I would be lying if I didn't tell you it was frustrating. It's frustrating for them. It's frustrating for us to look at those numbers because we do spend a tremendous amount of time on those calls for service. These officers, detectives are all tied up, and then it's frustrating. And this is the way it works, but most of the time we send that child home. We send them back to their caretaker. So there is a level of frustration, and then the next call is a stolen vehicle. So, there are people behind all of those numbers. So when I say 800 people that couldn't go to the doctor or couldn't go to school today because their car was just missing for some random game or for some TikTok challenge, it seems absurd.
Julia Kaufman, WCMC Charlotte. You chatted about the concern of minors being repeat offenders, juveniles. Would you say you're seeing more children involved in crime maybe than in years past?
I don't know that we could put a definitive number on that. It feels like it, but I don't know that we'd have to kind of take a look back at those numbers. But I will be honest with you, it feels like it every single day when you look at the numbers.
I think it'd be safe to say with the TikTok challenge, that definitely influenced a lot of our juveniles. So regarding auto thefts, I would say yes.
One more question. Jalen Hill, Key City Metro. School about to hit. Are you guys concerned about summertime as juveniles are more out and about? And what is the department doing to kind of prevent those measures?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I touched on a little bit. You know, the divisions are preparing for the summertime. You know, I'm not sure how many of these juveniles that are out breaking into cars in the middle of the night are actually attending school. So we'll probably see the same ones. I don't know that our numbers would increase per se, but we are prepared for that. You know, every division kind of has their own hot spots, their own problem areas. They've been tasked to work on those, come up with a summertime plan to include overtime if needed.
How's your officer recruitment going?
I can get you those numbers. I don't know where we are as far as exact numbers, but, you know, it's a challenge here. It's a challenge nationwide. But like I said, we'll have almost 40 seated in this next class. We're looking at potentially adding a recruit class to see if we can get more numbers in to relieve some of the stress on our officers.
All right, so as we wrap this up, just a couple things to note. I'm going to give name spellings for the deputy chief and the major. Deputy chief is Tanya, Tonya. Last name is Arrington, Arrington. And the major is Luke, Luke. Last name Sell, Sell. One other thing I wanted to know that came up in the questions pertaining to our aggravated assaults, our shooting. I believe the numbers are up on the screen behind me. Our aggravated assaults, which includes an ADW with a gun, are down 6% this year. So those numbers are down. And again, just as a reminder, we're going to send out that press release that has more global statistics in it that you can take a look at. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for your patience at the beginning.